In a quiet, dusty antiques auction, Andrian, a renowned clock collector, came across an old wall clock that caught his attention. The clock was pitch black with mysterious Gothic carvings, and in the center, there was a small inscription in Latin that read, "Tempus, reddit," said Preti Moriendum. Time can return, but a price must be paid. Andrian was captivated by the dark aura of the clock. Without a second thought, he purchased it for a high price and brought it home to his house, filled with rare collections. That night, while examining the antique clock, he noticed a small button on the back that looked like a time knob. His curiosity burned within him. The beginning of the curse, driven by curiosity. Andrian turned the knob in a certain direction. Suddenly, the surroundings became blurry and cold. He found himself back in the past, at the age of 12, in a small garden full of flowers. There, he saw his younger self playing with his little sister, Siska. It was a beautiful moment, yet filled with sorrow, as Siska had died a few months later in a tragic accident caused by his own negligence. Andrian could only watch the scene with teary eyes. When he returned to the present, the clock chimed 3 times, with a sound resembling a heartbeat. He considered the experience extraordinary, though slightly eerie. However, everything changed when nightfall came. As midnight approached, Andrian's house was filled with the sound of small footsteps echoing throughout. He felt as if something was watching him. When he checked the living room, he saw a small figure of Siska standing in the corner. Her face no longer cheerful as he remembered. Her face was covered in wounds, and her black, hollow eyes stared at him with hatred. Andrian was terrified, but tried to convince himself that it was just a hallucination. However, Siska continued to appear in every corner of the house, slowly approaching him while reciting his past sins. Andrian realized that every time he used the clock, one of his past memories would come to life, but in a terrifying form. He tried to use the clock to fix his mistakes, but the more he turned back time, the more ghosts from his past appeared. Some were small memories, like the schoolmates he had hurt, but others were major: his father, who had died mysteriously after a quarrel with him, and a man he had betrayed for business. Andrian's house became filled with whispers, heavy footsteps, and the screams of the ghosts that drew closer. These spirits didn't just want revenge. They sought to drag him into darkness. Andrian tried to destroy the clock, but the object seemed indestructible. He then sought another way by reading the history of the clock. He discovered that the clock was created by a medieval sorcerer who intended to make a device to fix the past, but it eventually became an instrument of punishment for those who regretted their sins. In desperation, Andrian decided to make one final journey with the clock. He turned time back to the day he had found the clock, intending to stop himself from buying it. However, as soon as he arrived in the past, a dark figure with his own face appeared and whispered, "You cannot escape your sins. You are part of this curse." When Andrian returned to the present, he found his house empty, as if it had never been lived in. All of his collections were gone, and only the antique clock remained in the center of the room. Andrian had now become part of the clock's curse spirit trapped within it, calling out for the next victim. At the end of the story, another collector finds the clock at the auction and is captivated by its beauty. Unaware of the horrors awaiting him, he takes it home, and the curse continues.